This is the MikeDJKelly Podcast. This is the MikeKelly Podcast.
Mike Kelly.
So here we go, as we unleash podcast number 13 of the amazing, nearly summer, shorter than short MikeDJKelly Podcast show, which includes news and stories that the others leave well alone.
On this week's podcast.
Coming up, competitions, Friends of the Earth, going cashless, radio, Hedden Bridge, Whicker, Squirrels, and a whole lot more. If you want to get in touch about anything to do with the podcast show, please use either of the following to contact us. Email hello@MikeDJKelly.co.uk or on Twitter @MikeKellyDisco.
It's time for a competition.
Let's kick off with our Guess the Celebrity. Who is this? Born on the 22nd of May 1959 in Davyhulme, Lancashire. He was frontman of the rock band from 1982 to 1987. Since then, he has pursued a commercially successful solo career. He has courted controversy since early on in his music career, with his forthright opinions endorsing vegetarianism, animal rights, criticising royalty and prominent politicians, and critiquing the impact of Americanism and immigration on English national identity. Who is he?
This is the shorter than short Mike Kelly Podcast.
It's easy nowadays to see what far-off places are like by just searching the place name and looking at pictures and details on your smartphones. But it's only a few years ago when if you wanted to know what a far-off land looked like, you would refer to world travel guides or rely on a TV show to introduce these far-off places to you. My world knowledge came from Whicker's World, a television documentary series that ran from 1958 to 1994 and presented by journalist and broadcaster Alan Whicker. Originally a segment on the BBC's Tonight programme in 1958, Whicker's World became a fully fledged television series in its own right in the 1960s. The series was first shown by the BBC until 1968 and then by ITV from 1968 to 1983 when it was produced by Yorkshire Television, in which Whicker himself was a shareholder. The series returned to the BBC in 1984 and to ITV again in 1992. Whicker reported stories of social interest from around the world. His interviewees included locals, politicians, celebrities, and even convicted criminals, as he reported on stories as far-ranging as military dictatorships, British expatriates, the feminist movement of the 1970s, the tanker people of Hong Kong, the American gay rights movement, the building of Disney World in Florida, and the plastic surgery industry. Although episodes were self-contained, Whicker would often film a series of episodes devoted to one particular location or subject, including 5 whole series devoted to the United States and 3 about Australia. Multi-episode series dedicated to the South Pacific, Europe, India, Hong Kong, Spain, and a voyage on the QE2 were also made. In the late 1960s, the series was spoofed by the British comedian Benny Hill, who did a sketch on his show called Nicker's World. It was parodied again in 1972 by Monty Python's Flying Circus, who did a sketch set on a tropical island called Whicker Island, where all the inhabitants were Alan Whicker clones. If you want to know more about it, get YouTubing and search for Alan Whicker.
Golly gosh.
My first trip abroad was at 17, camping in France, but more on that on another day. But my first air travel was with Dan Air, an experience all on its own, to Tenerife. Despite going with friends Malcolm and Peter, I ended up in an after-hours lock-in at a local bar on my own and returning to my accommodation in the early hours. Last on my world travels for now, a later holiday to Tenerife with mate Paul and then partners ended up with us being filmed drinking beers in the sunshine in the morning at the Rover's Return and being shown on Judith Chalmers' Wish You Were Here TV travel show.
This is the Mike Kelly Podcast.
Talk about being ripped off. I needed a Pritt stick urgently to complete the posting of my old passport to the passport office. Horsforth Town Street Post Office charged a massive £2.85 for a small lipstick-sized Pritt stick. Talking of lipstick, apparently ladies who wear lipstick sorry, I should not limit this item to ladies only in these inclusive times, but hey, those who wear lipstick on a regular basis are likely to consume 1.5 kilos of the stuff in their lifetime. And talking about figures that are hard to believe, during the recent Tour de Yorkshire, after the race had finished, all media outlets were saying over 3 million spectators had watched the event over the weekend. So how the flipping heck do they know that? Somebody looking at the footage and making a guess?
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly Podcast.
Nice to welcome Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor into the world. Careful how we go. We don't want any more Danny Baker style mishaps. Staying with numbers, former doctor and now comedian Adam Kay said, let's get this in perspective. 1,800 babies are born every day in the UK.
This podcast is available on iTunes, Mixcloud.com, Popbean.com, and from my friend Alexa.
Yep, it's competition time, but no prizes. What is the sing-along song these lines are from? Well, she's my woman of gold, and she's not very old. Aha, aha, aha. I don't mean to be bold, but may I hold your hand? Name the song and the artiste. Well, she's my woman of gold, and she's not very old. Aha, aha, aha. I don't mean to be bold, but may I hold your hand? Come on, you know it. Name the song and the artiste. Please do get in touch about anything to do with the podcast show. Use either of the following to contact us. Email hello@MikeDJKelly.co.uk or on Twitter @MikeKellyDisco. And don't forget, in case you missed my tweets about new versions of the podcast being available, you can always get the Mike DJ Kelly Podcast by going to iTunes or Spotify and searching Mike DJ Kelly. Talking of royal weddings, which were not, in the early days of BBC radio broadcasting, before the telly came along, some royal weddings were not broadcast in case men listening did not take off their hats as a mark of respect. Even though I say it myself, I did a nice interview with Hebden Folks Roots Festival spokesperson Fiona Patterson on BCB 106.6 FM. If you fancy giving it a listen, you can hear it on the BCB 106.6 website under the Listen Again button on Tuesday, the 30th of April at midday. And on the radio, I heard on a Radio 4 consumer show that see-through transparent plastic clothing is becoming a thing. This is after Kim Kardashian was seen wearing some, and Topshop are now stocking said items. They say what goes round comes round. I'm sure if you YouTube Billy Idol, you'll see him in some see-through clothes many years ago. Let's keep with the radio theme. Good news for Amanda Holden, who will be co-hosting the Heart Breakfast Show on a national basis with Jamie Theakston from June for a reported £3 million salary. Is it me? Or is this a gross overpayment for this type of job?
Golly gosh.
Better say hello to Jerry in Spain, who emailed to say hello after the last podcast, to which we say, hola, Jerry. On the TV, I'm enjoying being in the EasyJet cockpit, but not enjoying BBC TV's Question Time at the moment for many reasons. One of the main reasons is that I'm distracted by the chairs the panel are sat on. They look like cheap plastic patio furniture. Have to say I'm amazed that you can get banned and fined for using a mobile phone while driving, but TV presenters driving and giving an interview, as demonstrated on last week's Watchdog and 4 in a Bed, seems to be totally acceptable.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly Podcast.
This week's do-gooders are Friends of the Earth at friendsoftheearth.uk. Please note, before we go any further, when members of the public donate to Friends of the Earth, they think they are giving money to a charity, not a limited company. The structure of Friends of the Earth is not unique, and other organisations work in this way with both a charity and non-charitable campaigning body. So Friends of the Earth say together they make things happen. The first images of Earth from space inspired a movement of people who wanted to protect the only planet we have to call home. It looked beautiful, yet vulnerable. Friends of the Earth stands with anyone who cares about the world we live in, whether you're a first-time supporter or a seasoned campaigner. They work with local groups, experts, business leaders and politicians, and they push for change on causes that matter to you. protecting your home and local environment, promoting safe and healthy food and water everywhere, supporting alternative energy solutions that can change the world for the better for everyone. Together, with Friends of the Earth, your voice is louder, your actions more significant, your impact greater. They are with you every step of the way, supporting your local community, defending human rights, protecting nature, moving mountains. Together with you, they are determined to change the world for good, creating a cleaner, healthier, fairer world for everyone, for today and generations to come. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Friends of the Earth.
This podcast is available on iTunes, Mixcloud.com, Popbean.com, and from my friend Alexa.
If you want to get in touch with this top-rated, much-listened-to podcast, please contact by email hello@MikeDJKelly.co.uk or on Twitter @MikeKellyDisco. Indeed, if you want a podcast making for your business or need any help with radio producer or presentation work, please get in touch. Since the last poddy, there have been some more fires. Some, they say, possibly started by disposable barbecues. Should disposable barbecues that you can buy for between £2 and £5 even be on sale? If they should, why not double the price and use it as a tax to fund those services that are needed to deal with the fires in these emergency situations?
This is the Shorter Than Short MikeKelly Podcast.
And just in case you do not know, James Henry Atkinson, 1849 to 1942, was a British ironmonger from Leeds, who is best known for his 1899 patent of the Little Nipper mousetrap. He is cited by some as the inventor of the classic spring-loaded mousetrap, which was an enhancement to the basic style of mousetrap, which was patented a few years earlier in the United States. Is this a spring thing? In the last few weeks, I must have come across 8 dead squirrels lying on roads. Is it to do with the time of year and too much food causing them to lose their balance?
This is the Shorter Than Short MikeKelly Podcast.
Been some interesting stories about London in the media. Apparently libraries across the UK have been hit by austerity, but in London, as they're called national, this and that, they are under a different set of rules and different funding arrangements. It's the same with the buses. Following deregulation of services across the UK, these are now run by private operators, charging some very high prices in some areas. Yet in London, TfL-run services have a maximum price of £1.50. According to which, cash machines are vanishing from the high street in ever-increasing numbers. I could now name several towns where you cannot easily find a cash machine. It seems the banks are forcing us to go cashless. It's not all that long ago that banks were giving incentives and free gifts to get people to have their wages paid directly into the bank instead of getting a pay packet with real money in it. Now the bank branches are closing and cash machines being removed. Maybe we should go back to being truly cashless and start sending each other checks as forms of payment. I did go into a local pub, the Emmett Arms, for a pint and noted signs around the pub stating all transactions have to be in cash. And on money, I filled up with fuel at the Texaco garage and it came to £30 and a penny. I gave the cashier £30 and 5p. I waited for my 4p change, which did not arrive. I asked for my 4p change and she said she had no pennies or 2-penny coins. I said it would have been easier to knock the penny off I owed, but she still would not reply or refund. Nearly as cheeky as the time I went to Lupa's Mexican restaurant, and when getting the bill and giving over the money, the waitress said, "Do you want the change?"
This is the MikeKelly Podcast.
Mentioned my new passport earlier. I had my photos taken for this at Max Spielman's and gave them my email address. They in turn sent me an email which had a digital code number you could submit to your passport application when applying online. When you do this, it brings up the best of the 4 images. Apparently this is being rolled out across the UK, and whichever shop or photo booth you use will offer this feature.
This is the Shorter Than Short MikeKelly Podcast.
Okay, time to go. Guess the celebrity. Born the 22nd of May 1959 in Davyhulme, Lancashire, he was the frontman of the Smiths from 1982 to 1987. He has courted controversy since early on in his music career with his forthright opinions, endorsing vegetarianism and animal rights, criticising royalty and prominent politicians, and critiquing the impact of Americanisation and immigration on English national identity. Yep, it's Stephen Patrick, not that those names are needed, as he is Morrissey. So what was the song that contained these lines? Well, she's my woman of gold and she's not very old. Aha, aha, aha. I don't mean to be behold, but may I hold your hand. It was T-Rex and Hot Love. That's all we have time for in this edition of the crazy Shorter Than Short podcast show. From me, Mike Kelly, take care. And remember, you can always find the podcast by searching or shouting Mike DJ Kelly Podcast.
This is the Mike Kelly Podcast.
Mike Kelly.